Number 10. First appearance. Mangle first appears in the game Five Nights at Freddy's number 2. This might not sound like a scary fact to you, unless that is that you've actually played FNAF 2, because then you probably know what I'm talking about. FNAF 2's more open concept office with no doors to protect you to many fans has always appeared more frightening. And add in that when Mangle does get to you, they attack from above, and you've got a great nightmare scenario just waiting to infiltrate your dreams. Number 9. No eye patch. How is it possible that the loss of Foxy's iconic eye patch and Funtime Foxy's eyes makes Mangle more scary? And yet, it does. Instead of having both of their eyes or the iconic Foxy Pirate-esque eye patch and hook, Mangle is often depicted as having a single eye, with the other being seen as having fallen out and laying next to it on the ground of Kid's Cove, or as having no eyeballs at all, just little pinprick pupils of white light peering out at you. Somehow the lack of eyes or eye patch covering that light makes Mangle appear even more terrifying in comparison to the other Foxy models. Number 8. 2 heads are better than 1. Some may have also noticed that Mangle comes with an extra head. The head often appears to be attached to the end of one of Mangle's limbs, and while some suspect the endoskeleton extra head belongs to another animatronic version of Chica's cupcake that belonged to Mangle when I guess they were properly assembled, others have a better theory. Being that Mangle is obviously a similar model to Foxy, some think that this was Mangle's parrot companion. The only strange thing is that Funtime Foxy, who Mangle seems to more closely resemble, did not have a parrot. Either way, it seems a little odd that this endo head exists as part of Mangle, though it does add to Mangle's mutilated and creepy appearance.
And 7. Epilogue. Each Fazbear Fights story comes with an extra one thrown in there for good measure, like 3 normal stories and then the part of a bigger one that's expanding over all 7 books in the series. These epilogues are the stories, and yes, they explain everything about the Stitchwraith, or at least some of it. It starts in Into the Pit and continues on to the other books. They don't necessarily go in order, but the gist of these stories so far is the creation of the Stitchwraith and then its mission to gather body parts. As it does in To Be Beautiful, when Baby hacks apart a girl in order to steal her identity. We don't really know what it's planning yet, but we can assume it's nothing good, because you know, it's FNAF.
Number 6. Exorcist. As if the Frankenstein references weren't creepy enough, Mangle is also capable of completely rotating their head around 360 degrees, so they can in effect pull an exorcist. And this also means no matter where you are, it's likely that Mangle always is able to have an eye on you. Mangle only has eyes for you. Oh, how sweet. I bet it would also be creepy to see Mangle crab walk down some stairs too, like in The Exorcist. I know I wouldn't want to see that when I wake up in the middle of the night.
Halfway through at number 5, Born This Way. My mama told me when I was young, don't kill your creator. Well, obviously the Stitchwraith never got that lesson, probably because he didn't have the time. After being created, the Stitchwraith immediately decides to off Phineas, which makes me think of this as potentially a symbol for Henry. We know that Henry died via an animatronic thanks to FNAF World, but the similarities between the two stories are strong, and while yes, we don't know much about this creature's origins, it could be a hint to what's coming next. People say that nobody is born evil, but they've obviously never heard of a bloodthirsty murder bot who instantly kills their creator. Or an antichrist. Hi.
Number 4. The Collective. Not only is it confirmed that Mangle is made up of multiple animatronic parts in the mobile game FNAF AR Special Delivery, but it's also implied that they have an internal collection of spirits residing within them. They sometimes refer to themselves as we in Special Delivery. You'll hear them say things like, we can hear you, we can smell you. When they speak, it also sounds like a predominantly female voice speaking, but the shadow of a lower pitched or masculine voice underneath. It sounds like 2 voices speaking at once, which also leads us to believe that there is more than one consciousness lurking within the mind of Mangle.
And at 3, his origins. The origin of the Stitchwraith is outlined fairly simply in the 3rd Fazbear Fights book, 135 AM. At least I think it's that one. No matter, we get to learn the whole origin of the Stitchwraith, proving to us that this character is new and not someone we've seen before, like Ennard. Using the battery for fetch and the agony from L, Dr. Phineas Taggart was experimenting with human emotion, saying that it emanates from us and soaks into our surroundings, claiming that agony is the most powerful and reaches out the furthest from us. And that agony is what really haunts objects in animatronics. The FNAF 1 or 2 era endoskeleton was found by Phineas and infused with the agony from the Ella doll. Then he puts a head on it from a 3-foot-tall doll, which if you're looking for a visual, think like Blank from Five Nights at Candy's. He adds a battery pack and turns it on. As he does, he gets killed instantly, potentially by accident, but nevertheless it happens, and then the Stitchwraith leaves under a black cloak. It's creepy, it's haunting, and it's extremely interesting, so I look forward to learning more. There's like 3 more books coming out or something like that? 3 or 4? Ish.
Number 2. Sweet and sour. Mangle doesn't just seem to have various parts and perhaps spirits residing within them, they also seem to have multiple distinctive personalities living within them as well. One of the personalities specifically seems more sweet, curious, and fun, while another is much more horrific and malicious. While some theorize this is because there are multiple spirits or different bits of remnant combined to create Mangle, it's also possible that this could be due to two completely different sets of programs competing within the animatronic and vying for dominance. One of course would be the programming within Mangle to entertain children as a fun and harmless Freddy animatronic, while the other could be the more insidious programming included by William Afton, which ignites Mangle's need and passion for killing kids. It's possible that when Mangle became disassembled on a daily basis, these two sets of programming split, each manifesting their own separate personality within the animatronic. Number 1. Undefeatable. Well, once they are in the office, that is. In FNAF 2, Mangle will make their way to you via the vents. When they arrive at the office, however, if they manage to get in before you can ward them off, preventing them entering by disguising yourself in the Freddy head, they will then remain there for the rest of the night. There is nothing you can do but listen to their weird audio disturbances and wait to eventually be jump scared. It's inevitable. Bringing up the monitor and lowering it again while Mangle is in the office with you will trigger this jump scare, however, if you'd just rather get that whole horrific experience over with.
An intense soap opera. One fun fact about Michael Afton, actually I don't know if this is fun or if we should actually be afraid, is that he loves the soap opera The Immortal and the Restless, a vampire parody of The Young and the Restless, and I'm assuming Twilight maybe, because of the vampires. I don't actually know where Scott stands on the franchise. Anyway, I'm not sure if we should be amused by his constant watching of the show or afraid, since him watching that show keeps his attention so bad that he doesn't hear Ennard come into his house, and he's just able to crawl in front of the TV while Michael just sits there. No running, no surprise, he just sits there watching Immortal and the Restless. People also seem to think that this is alluding to Michael's relationship with William, saying potentially that the child isn't his. I mean, that is a possibility, but what if it's true, and when William found out he killed the mother, hence why she isn't around? But that doesn't really make any sense, because if he was willing to kill the mother, he wouldn't have kept the kid. Either way, the way Michael gets distracted by a soap opera is scary. Not because it's a soap opera, because he's so distracted he doesn't hear a 7-foot-tall animatronic walking into his house. In a 9 torn identity, Michael, while not going by many names, has had many different identities over the years. While now most of us know who he is, there is a whole section of the community that thinks that Mike is Springtrap. Hell, according to the security logbook, Michael may not even be his real name. Over the years, Michael has gone by Foxy Bro, Crying Child, Purple Guy, Springtrap, and Mike Trap, but they have all been Michael Afton. We don't know why he may not remember his name, and we may not know for certain what's really going on in this series, but I can tell you that 100% he is not Springtrap, okay? Mike Trap is not a thing. Scott Cawthon confirmed it himself in reference to a MatPat theory about FNAF 6, saying to pay attention to his take on the Mike Trap versus Will Trap debate, and Matt did in fact prove to us that Mike Trap is impossible, since when Purple Guy was first introduced in FNAF 2, he had been able to drive since Fredbear's Family Diner, which Mike would 100% not have been old enough to do. Plus, if it was Mike in the Springtrap costume, he wouldn't have been able to set the souls of the other children free like he was doing, because he would have been trapped in the safe room. And it ain't mirror image. We learned from Mike's final monologue in Sister Location that Mike actually looks a lot like his father, saying the animatronics didn't recognize him at first, but then they thought that Mike was William, which explains why the animatronics are coming to kill us in the games and why the toy animatronics come after us in FNAF 2. Because we play as Mike in all those games. Because since now they have William as a killer and they're all looking for him, but instead they find us, his son, Michael Afton, which kind of throws out the whole we aren't his son thing, unless you think about the crying child as the one who isn't the son, but in that case he wouldn't say I'll put you back together, even though he could be someone else who says that, and who knows anymore. Not even MatPat, and we rely on MatPat to get these things right. At least I do. I rely on it. Notice me, senpai. Just comment in all the game theories. Tell them to check out Top 10 Gaming. Love you, MatPat. Don't copyright strike me.
Number 7. Made to Kidnap. When you think about what Circus Baby was likely designed for, she becomes one of the most insidious animatronics of the bunch, especially in comparison to what we know of her fellow Sister Location animatronics. On the outside, she appears sweet and fun, but inside, her program seems to be helping her to track children, looking for the best time to strike in either kidnapping or likely killing them. She's the perfect child murdering machine, counting children as they move about, waiting until one lone one child breaks away from the group and then swooping in to strike. When she tells her story in Sister Location, she remembers, "I would always count the children. I'm not sure why. I was always acutely aware of how many there were in the room with me. 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 2, then none. They usually played together in groups of 2 or 3. I was covered in glitter. I smelled like birthday cake. There were 2, then 3, then 5, then 4. There were 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Something happened when there was 1. It really appears as though this is the purpose that Circus Baby was programmed for.
And at 6, he can't die. It's established in Sister Location that Mike isn't able to die via any normal means. When he got scooped and injected with Remnant, as explained via the Remnant reservoir that the scooper has, and thanks to Baby telling him he won't die after Ennard escapes his now rotting body. However, even though he is rotting, smelling disgusting, and becoming more ghastly every day, he's still kicking. Or at least he was, until Pizzeria Simulator. Now, how is this? Well, it's thanks to the Remnant in his body. The Remnant that he was injected with in Sister Location's final moments actually saved his life. His body was dead, but his soul was still preserved, infusing him with a form of soul metal powered by agony that can only be destroyed with fire, or overheating. And you may be thinking, if he was injected with Remnant, doesn't that make his body possessed by a soul that isn't his? And while this would be true for anyone else, scooping would be incredibly painful and cause an intense amount of agonizing pain. But you also need to remember, he's with his dead family. He just found out that his sister possessed the Circus Baby animatronic, and his brother, probably fairly recently, just got killed by the springlock failure. So he's dealing with a whole lot, to say the least, and to say that he's in agony is probably an understatement. So it's very possible that he infused his soul with the Remnant injected and just took control. That's not that far out there when it comes to this series. And at number 5, superpowers. While Funtime Freddy himself may not have any superpowers to think of, the voice actor Kellen Goff may have some tricks up his sleeve for his other voice acting roles. For example, he voiced Goketsu in One Punch Man and Overhaul from My Hero Academia. Thank you to several comments for pointing this out in the previous part, because I was scanning through there for more facts, because Jesus, this was hard. He also voiced Nijimura's father and Emperor Crimson in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This guy is going well, not to mention all of his video game work like Warframe, Bruce Banner from Marvel Avengers Academy, Molten Freddy from FNAF 6, a load of characters from Smite, Fiddlesticks from League of Legends, and the Bloaters from Last of Us Part 2. This guy is all over the place and killing it. I guess that makes sense for Funtime Freddy. I also guess the voice mimic ability for Funtime Freddy is well deserved. And at 4, Scooped. We all know that Mike got scooped at the end of Sister Location, if you got the right ending. However, what we probably didn't know, at least until FNAF 6, is how the scooper worked. The scooper has 4 different parts to it. The excavating arm, which is the worst name for a scooper imaginable, the remnant injector that leaves a trace line of remnant on the interior of the subject, the arm, base, and balance, and the remnant reservoir. And this blueprint is also where we learn that negating the effects of remnant requires heat. In the notes it says that when heated the metal has no observable motion, that the heated tank should be kept at a sustaining temperature that makes the metal malleable but nothing more liquid than that, because overheating might neutralize the effects permanently, as well as using the scooper too much. As the notes on the injector says, overusage/overexposure negates the effects. If Mike had scooped Ennard out of him, he might have just been able to die instead of living in agony.
Number 3, Realistic Baby. On part 1 of this list, I talked a bit about Circus Baby's design. Have you noticed the pins that always seem to be sticking out of her? They're like clothing pins you'd see on a mannequin to help hold cloth in place when measuring out and creating or altering clothing. For Baby, however, these pins not only look creepy, but also serve a purpose. They are kinda like compression pins for her, which allow Baby to alter her appearance, changing her shape somewhat and allowing her to appear more like a real human being. Perhaps this is how she originally tried to leave the Circus Baby entertainment and rental facility, but due to her still being an animatronic inside, some kind of detector discovered that it was her, either preventing her from leaving and foiling her escape attempt, or tracking her down and bringing her back. After all, this seems like a better way to disguise yourself than as a giant endoskeleton of an animatronic inside a flesh suit, which I feel like wouldn't look quite the same as a human being, but...
And at 2, Purple Guy. Remember how I mentioned earlier that people thought Mike was the killer? Well, that's because of Scott's old tricks. In the final scenes of Sister Location, where we see Mike walking along after his Ennard injection, we see him slowly get more purple and start to collapse, until eventually he is pure purple and so broken that Ennard has to evacuate faster than your Tinder date. He stood up after Baby said multiple times that he won't die, but this has caused a whole bunch of people to believe that he is actually the purple guy, that he is the killer. This is simply not the case. Yes, there are two purple guys, but only one of them is actually physically purple, that being Mike. Mike is actually purple, even though being green would make more sense because that's what everything rotten is colored, but whatever, Scott. William is the one and only purple guy, but he is purple because that's meant to represent a shadow in mini-games that have a black background. And in Atari-style games, purple was used to indicate shadows because in a way it's more realistic in some cases. It's hard to explain. They aren't the same person, I promise. Okay, as I said earlier, Scott confirmed it himself. Finally, in at number 1, he's the brother. Hey, brother. Now I've been talking this whole time about how Michael is the big brother, and some of you may be confused. At first we thought he was the brother until the survival logbook gave us questions like, does he still talk to you, in reference to psychic friend Fredbear, and lines like the party was for you. Since the crying child's party is where he ended up dying, we thought that Mike was actually the crying child, and the promise of I will put you back together came from William, who literally put him back together as a robot. But now we're back to his brother. Why? Actually, it's because of the latest Fazbear Fights book and the similarities between the main character of Paul from one of the stories and Foxy Bro, as Matt Pat called him. If you haven't watched that theory, I highly suggest you do. Matt will explain it better than I can in this short amount of time because the script is already really damn long. But basically, the similarities prove that Mike is actually the gray-shirted big brother. But honestly, I think that the two kids may be the same person. But that's something I'll have to discuss on my own stuff. And at 10, Yendo. Last part, I mentioned the animatronic known as Yendo, who can sometimes replace Funtime Foxy in their local section. But I proposed various ideas as to who this mysterious animatronic could be. Some of you didn't like that, and insisted that there was only one very clear option as to who it can be. But that's not how this series has been working, guys. Nothing has really been clear. We still have people fighting over who the main killer of the series is. You can't tell me that it's obvious with this character. Nothing is set in stone. Scott made the games, actual games in the series now, so all of it can be thrown out the window whenever he decides to. But one idea I saw popping up multiple times was the idea that Yendo is Funtime Golden Freddy. Now the fact here is that Yendo exists and is basically a beefier Freddy that has yellow eyes and doesn't have any shell. And some of the community see him as an unofficial token Golden Freddy of Sister Location. Considering how popular Golden Freddy is in the series, I can understand both why this would be and how this would be possible in the game world. And at 9, Bon Bon. I touched on Bon Bon last part as well, but I didn't really give much information other than he seems to be attached and is kind of like Funtime Freddy's conscience. Bon Bon is a little blue bunny that sits on Freddy's right hand and is basically working like a calming water fountain for Freddy, calming him down and basically acting like your wingman while Freddy wants to come eat your flesh. But I said last time that he appears to be stuck, but this isn't true. He appears in the FNAF VR separated from Freddy, and at a certain point in Sister Location, he gets removed as well. Freddy has just another hand as an attachment, I guess, that he can swap between the two. Would that hurt? Can animatronics feel pain? I mean, like, I guess they're all infused with the remnant of the original animatronics, so does that make it possible for them to feel pain? Even if they contain at least like 4 or 5 souls? And at 8, Temper. Now, I'm sure this goes for all animatronics who are possessed by 5 different souls powered by agony, but Funtime Freddy has a little bit of a temper, as demonstrated by his constant throwing of Bon Bon during Sister Location's custom night, where you won't actually see Freddy, but he will throw Bon Bon at your door. And if you don't close the correct one, Bon Bon will jump scare you because you'll get in your room because Freddy threw him. What the hell, man? Like, I thought we were cool. You were being like my protector, saying that I was like a mouse. Like, now you're doing this to me? What the hell? I mean, like, I guess technically I might be a different person in this custom night, because, like, it's not canon, and... I don't know. Freddy just... Yeet! Oh, that's so funny. And at 7, moral differences. Now, while William and Mike may look alike, that's the only thing they have in common. Genetics aside, these people aren't related in the slightest. If you think about it, these two are the opposites of each other. One is corrupt and kills as a second nature, and the other is trying to repent, making up for his father's crimes as well as his own wrongdoings. We don't know why William started killing, it's all just speculation, but we know why Mike began hunting down the spirits of the children and started setting them free, to make up for his father's mistakes and to let his brother have the peace he deserves. The two characters juxtapose each other, and this is even more reinforced when you remember that they did look exactly alike, so much so that the animatronics actively try to enact revenge on Mike, thinking that he's William. Even though they look identical, they are on the opposite sides of the spectrum of human decency. And while yes, Mike started off bullying his younger brother, once he got his brother killed, that's when he found his way. It's sad, but at least they can rest now. And 6 other ships. Oh, here we go again. Welcome back to the killing floor! I'm your overly eccentric host, Sir Cries-a-Lot, and we're back to find our bachelor some love. We're back with our first ever part 2 with bachelor number 1 once again. Funtime Freddy has returned! I guess last time wasn't that fun of a time, was it? Now let's find you a lovely companion. How about Funtime Foxy? I'm sure that with this Foxy Mama there'll be nothing but smiles here. But remember, don't go too fast. Even if they're swiggity swooty crave in that booty. Or how about Bretty? Are you ready for a good time? I'm sure Ballora won't mind a menagerie if you know what I mean, since we all know you're kinda attached to your ex. Or perhaps Baby. You and Baby could definitely go to the circus. And not only does she provide you with the same souls that you have inside you, but there's an additional one in the form of your killer's daughter. Doesn't that sound exciting? But wait, there's more. Literally, if you're looking for a combination of all of the above, check out Ennard. You may need to give yourself to it just because of how much they need you. This sounds ridiculous. Why do you people ship animatronics? See how weird this is? See what you're doing to me? It's not even number 5.
Number 5, can inflate balloons. A feature that Circus Baby has, which not all animatronics share, is that she has a built-in helium tank. The tank is connected to her fingertips, and as such she can use her fingers to inflate balloons, and even possibly is programmed to build crazy balloon animals and objects out of the balloons her fingers inflate. This doesn't sound scary at first. I mean, how can balloons be scary? But what if she used her fingers to inflate you until you popped like a balloon? Or, more realistically, asphyxiated from helium poisoning, as the helium replaced all the oxygen in your body, which is what would happen. You probably wouldn't pop like a balloon. Asphyxiation is said to be one of the worst ways to die, so if you keep all this in mind, her helium all of a sudden becomes a lot less fun and a lot more terrifying.
In it for Helping Hand. As I mentioned in a previous number, Bonbon isn't fully attached to Freddy, which means that he can remove him, as demonstrated in the custom night. However, this means that Freddy has a spare hand that he attaches to himself after throwing or at least getting rid of Bonbon. Does this mean he can have like multiple attachments for his arm? Yes. Does he? Probably not, but for all you Foddy shippers, you can have the headcanon that there's a hook Freddy attaches to his arm to make Foxy feel more comfortable. Why do I keep bringing up these ships? I think I have like some form of PTSD from that. Or some form of trauma at the very least, either from the ships or from those damn doors, okay? People in the comments of the other video were saying that they're electromagnet doors, but they would still require power for them to be open, okay? Not closed. Plus, it's still a stupid design either way. One breaker switch or fuse blows, and everything in your main office is up for grabs, okay? Including your security guard at the hands of possessed animatronic animals. And I know this doesn't relate to this list, okay? But I'm mad about it. I will always be mad about it. Until Scott explains it. I'll still probably be mad about it. Yeah, the trauma's definitely from the doors. And the ships. It's both, really. Getting close to the end in number 3, he killed his brother. This is a fairly obvious thing, but this is also one of the most horrifying things imaginable. I wouldn't be able to handle directly being the cause of a family member's death. If I was Mike and I had put my brother into the jaws of a creature he was so terrified of that he started crying so much the jaws closed and crushed his skull, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I wouldn't have been okay ever again, okay? Just the thought of this makes me want to hug my sister. Sure, her and I fight and yeah, I pick on her, but there's no way that I would have forced her into a terrifying situation unless it was for YouTube content and she was willing. But by no means would I throw her into the mouth of anything. I was going to make a joke and say aside from a lion, but I can't even joke about that. That sucks. And ultimately, in number 2, Pinkie Pie. I don't know what this character's name is, okay? But Bon Bon has like a twin or something. Are these guys the FNAF version of Dipper and Mabel? No matter. In FNAF VR, we're introduced to a pink version of Bon Bon in the Funtime Freddy Night Terror minigame. This little one will hide in the dressers and poke their head out every so often and jump scare you if you don't put your flashlight at them. Bon Bon does the same thing and they alternate dressers every so often. Their jump scares don't end the game, they only serve as a way to get your heart beating faster and get you panicking like the Phantom Animatronics from FNAF 3. I don't know what their name is and I don't know if they were introduced before or even if they had any relation to Funtime Freddy outside of this minigame and looking like Bon Bon, but I'm gonna call it Pinkie Pie until I know their name. I guess I could look it up. Finally, in number 1, inspiration. Now, the inspiration behind the Funtime Animatronics is very odd to me. At first, I, along with many others, including Eddie VR, thought it was just the James Charles version of the Animatronics, maybe in an attempt to get a crossover going between the two, where James made himself look like Funtime Freddy. Probably not. The inspiration was more likely just to make the characters look similar to Baby. But that's what I don't understand, okay? These animatronics were designed to capture children. And statistics show that US residents are more afraid of clowns than global warming. So like, why would they approach an animatronic that looks like a clown? Sure, they have like the sound illusion discs or whatever, but if they do, what was the point of making them look like anything to begin with? If they could just make you see whatever, they could just be a walking containment cell that's covered in human feces and excrements, then there would be no way to tell, other than the smell. So like, what's the point? Plus, Baby seems to be able to shift between looking hyper-realistic and like a clown, so what's the point of making her look like a clown? Because it's scary to the people playing? I don't know for sure, but I need answers. The fact here is that the true inspiration is unknown and we need to find it.
Number 10. Broiler Baby. FNAF AR mobile game special delivery has recently given us a new look for Circus Baby with her Broiler Baby skin. This skin is a less colorful version of the character who appears to be made out of metal. Metal hot enough to withstand melting from the furnace in her chest plate. Through the cracks between her face plates, you can also see her fiery insides, which presumably help to power her up. I like to think this version of Circus Baby is steam powered. Instead of holding her microphone, she holds a menacing looking coal shovel. Number 9. Wait. Despite the fact that we call her Circus Baby, this animatronic is actually massive in terms of her size. According to schematics from sister location, Circus Baby is over 7 feet tall and weighs over 250 kilograms. That's over 500 pounds. In fact, Circus Baby is actually closer to weighing 600 pounds than 500, weighing in at exactly 585 pounds total. So if you weren't afraid of her creepy clown-like appearance, you'll definitely be intimidated by her sheer size. Never mind scooping you, she could just kill you by falling on top of you. Number 8. Help Wanted. One of the few games where you can get your jump scare on with Circus Baby is the FNAF VR game Help Wanted. Circus Baby appears in the minigame known as Night Terrors, where the player is forced to hide from her in a closet. When Baby approaches you, you'll want to hold the closet door closed to prevent her from getting to you and jump scaring you. However, you're not alone in that closet. There are also plush babies, which will get restless and alternatively kill you if you keep the closet closed for too long. So it's a balance of timing as you try to avoid death from those plush versions of Baby that you share the closet with, and from Circus Baby herself.
Minute 7. Ship? What the hell? You do realize that shipping this animatronic that contains the souls of 4 to 5 children is shipping the children, right? Shipping this animatronic with anyone is basically shipping the combined souls of 4 kids, even if you're shipping the character, because this literally was designed to have Remnant inside. The only reason any of the Funtimes exist is because Afton wanted to infuse Remnant in them, but, you know, give them the souls of children. Therefore, even if you ship the character, you now ship the children. Now, aside from that, what the damn hell is Fawn? Okay, shipping Funtime Freddy with Bon Bon? Aren't they basically one and the same at this point? Would they just be like multiple personalities inside of the Funtime Freddy animatronic? Because that would be easier to code, right? I don't know, I've never made a murder-hungry AI before. Only murder-hungry people. Why do you ship an animatronic with literally his right hand? That's weird. Even for this series.
Number 6. Ice Cream Dispenser. I love ice cream, which is why I find this feature so terrifying. Circus Baby's ice cream dispenser is how she ended up luring Elizabeth Afton to her death, offering the girl ice cream before devouring her. Ice cream is delicious and sweet, but instantly becomes more sinister when used in a plot to kidnap and potentially kill innocent children.
Halfway through and at number 5, Burned. However, despite his ultimate soul power, he eventually does die during the fire in FNAF 6, also known as Pizzeria Simulator, where Henry gives his final monologue to close out the first 6 games, or the Purple Guy saga, or at least we thought. We then see him return in the form of Glitch Trap in FNAF VR, but that's a whole other video. And literally, we did a top 10 scary Glitch Trap facts, so you should go check that out too. After this, of course. But as I described my last number, the only way he could die was through burning, which Henry makes sure of when he burns the joint to the ground with William, Baby aka Elizabeth, Molten Freddy aka Ennard, Lefty containing the puppet aka Charlotte, Henry's daughter, and you playing as Mike inside. The only question I have about this is, did we know we were gonna burn down? Obviously, we wouldn't be talking about it outright with Henry since, you know, arson is illegal, and if anyone were to stumble upon their operation, special obligations under paragraph 4 sounds better than you found an animatronic we need to burn. Especially when you take into account that these animatronics are possessed and have minds of their own. They don't want to be destroyed. So it would make sense as to why they'd keep it secret, but it could be Henry keeping secrets from us as well. I personally always thought that we knew that we were gonna burn and that we had just accepted it because we'd get to see our family again and they'd be put to rest. Also because, you know, we're a walking hunk of rotting flesh that was used as a meat suit for a robotic endoskeleton, and I don't think there's a therapy for that.
Number 4. Bitty Babs. Circus Baby isn't always alone, and though we don't get to interact with them quite as much or as intimately as Bellora's mini-renas, which climb inside an animatronic suit that you're wearing in the game, the fact remains that Circus Baby also comes with a group of creepy little minion animatronics, the Bitty Babs. Bitty Babs look like naked little baby dolls and also have face plates that can easily separate down the center, splitting in two to reveal the bare and creepy face of their endoskeleton beneath.
And at 3, easy access. In the last part, I complained about how stupid the design is for the Funtime animatronics, and people were saying that they were opening for easy maintenance. But that got me thinking. It was fairly easy in the FNAF VR game, so why the need to make it easier? No, the ability to open their face is not to be able to maintain them or repair them, but it's to get the children out. These animatronics were designed to capture kids. We know this based on the child we can see in the wireframe of Funtime Freddy and Baby Scooping Elizabeth Afton. So since the animatronics were easy to repair in the first place, the only reason you would need a hole this wide, giggity, would be to extract a child that is inside the containment chamber, and have enough room to fit a child into the containment chamber when you're capturing them in the first place. Either way, still a stupid design until you think about it in a more deranged child killer way. Like I said, we are all deranged child killers in our own way. Me, for example, I had a lot of fun playing that FNAF Purple Guy Simulator game. I should go back to that.
Number 2. She Knows You. I mean, while Circus Baby is Circus Baby, she is also Michael Afton's sister, Elizabeth. When you meet her in the game's sister location, while she doesn't show it at first, it is hinted at that she maybe knows you have some kind of ulterior motive for being there. She wonders what brings someone to a place like this, stating, "I'm curious, what events could lead a person to want to spend their nights in a place like this willingly? Maybe curiosity, maybe ignorance." While she's just speculating, it's interesting that she brings up your motivation for being there and acknowledges that it doesn't seem to be primarily because you simply needed a job. At least she doesn't believe that that's what it would be. Later on, if you follow the path to the fake ending in sister location during the survival night part of the game, which calls back to the style of play explored in the original titles, Circus Baby's voice will plead, "You must let us inside. Isn't this why you came here? To be with her again?" As though she knows that you are Michael and that you came there for Elizabeth's soul, implying there is something of Elizabeth inside her that indeed remembers you. Number 1. Saves your life. Wait a minute, but didn't you say in the last video, Amanda, that she wants to scoop you? Well, yes, Circus Baby does want to scoop you, which in theory should lead to your death, but not because she really bears any ill will towards you. As I stated in the last point, she recognizes you because Elizabeth is in there too. And do you think your little sister wants to kill you? Probably not. Circus Baby just wants out of Circus Baby Rental and Entertainment. In fact, when you, as Michael, get scooped and Ennard climbs inside you, it's likely the baby knows this won't actually kill you. And as we all, I'm sure, found surprising ourselves, knew that Michael Afton would somehow survive this whole process, even going to say, "You won't die." This is because Circus Baby knows the remnant will preserve Michael's soul and life force somehow, allowing him to live despite being somewhat rotted and emptied out, and even live after Ennard has both moved inside him and later has left his body.
And at 10, the missing link. There have been so many additional mysteries that were added in the Fazbear Fights books, but they're all actually connected. And the reason we know that they're all connected is because of the Stitchwraith. The Stitchwraith is literally the link connecting a whole load of the stories together. And not just from the new books, but the original trilogy as well as the games can all be tied back to the Stitchwraith. He was made with a battery from Fetch, his creator was looking for an Ella doll from To Be Beautiful that was made by Henry. He is the missing link in all of the continuity of these stories, and whatever comes next I'm sure we'll learn more about him. I mean, there is a little bit of him in every body. Wait. And at 9, agony beyond power of speech. The stories of the Stitchwraith actually help us to understand how animatronics get possessed on a better level. At first we just thought it was the normal way that possession works. Is there a normal way? Well, we just thought, you know, kid gets killed, kid gets put in the suit, and then kid possesses that suit because, yeah. But now, we know that they're actually possessed by agony. According to Phineas, the creator of the Stitchwraith, agony is the most intense human emotion, and it reaches out further than any other emotion. And that it's used by the animatronics because, you know, they were killed as children in their favorite pizza joint by a golden Bonnie. So agony is a pretty reasonable feeling. The way we understand Remnant and how it works will help us understand more mysteries in the long run, and knowing about how Phineas was experimenting with human emotion just puts us one step closer to solving the entirety of FNAF. At least if Scott doesn't keep adding more mysteries. We know he will. Too much money. Making bank. Oh man, I wish I had something as profitable as this. And at 8, not Ennard. At first, based on the description of a white mask and such, we thought that the Stitchwraith had to be Ennard. The combination of the Funtime animatronics as well as Baby and Ballora. But after seeing the creation in the epilogue of 1:35 AM, we now know indeed that it's not Ennard, even though it claims to look fairly similar. But this brings up an interesting idea. Why do they look so similar? I'm gonna move off the whole facts thing for a second and get into a little speculation. Why are the two characters so similar, at least when described? Perhaps Phineas knew about Ennard and got inspired by its appearance, or if the Stitchwraith came first, I guess it could be that Ennard got inspiration from the Stitchwraith, or maybe rumors or stories William told, I don't know, okay? It calls for a lot of weird jumping, and it's very weird until we know more about the timeline of the games and the books and how they work together, and like, you know. It's weird, but it's not Ennard. There's your fact.
Number 7, Kids Cove. When Mangle starts out in FNAF 2, they are in Kids Cove. From there, they'll progress towards you until they arrive in the office, gearing up to try and attack from above. Now, you might think Kids Cove sounds like a nice little location in this Freddy's, but it definitely doesn't look very nice. The big open room has its own party table with what appears to be little party hats on it, with presents in the corner and decorative posters on the wall. However, it also features exposed wires, and when Mangle appears, we'll feature the animatronic in a heap in the corner. Not really the expected birthday guest I think any child would have in mind. The room also features a child's drawing of kids playing with Mangle and tearing the animatronic apart. Yikes.
And at 6, Key Player. Like I said, each of the Fazbear Fights books has an epilogue chapter that tells a story about the Stitchwraith. But what I didn't mention is the fact that the Stitchwraith itself is actually a plot point in many of these stories. For example, in To Be Beautiful, Baby ends up cutting a girl into like chunks, or like something like that. She just dismembers like robotic body parts or something, you know, like limbs and stuff. And then those body parts are collected by the Stitchwraith. In Fetch, the battery used to operate the Fetch dolls also gets used to power the Stitchwraith. And the creator of the Stitchwraith, Phineas, was looking for an Ella doll that appeared in the story about the girl who had a divorce and never got the family she wanted and eventually died in a vent. I don't remember the name of that one, but like, the Stitchwraith is omnipresent in the Fazbear Fights books, similarly to how Thanos was in the MCU Infinity Saga, since he was behind the attack on New York in the first Avengers movie, and like he was like manipulating things from the background. It's like how the Stitchwraith is manipulating situations to end in its favor. At least that's what it looks like to me. 1:35 AM, that's the story. Yes. That's it, 1:35 AM.
Number 5, Frankenstein Connection. In special delivery, it's confirmed that Mangle is basically a hybrid animatronic created from multiple parts of other models mashed together. I'm now so many pieces of people, all making me the fox I am today, is one of the lines you can hear Mangle say in special delivery. Basically, they're like a Frankenstein animatronic. Sort of like Ennard, I guess. And perhaps also like Ennard internally as well. Not only that, but because of the fact that Mangle is made up of multiple bits sort of mashed together, they tend to have pieces fall off of them every now and then, which is also kind of a disturbing thought. So I guess you could just pick those back up and assemble them for for them. There you go, Mangle, just put you back together again.
In at 4, appearance. The appearance of the Stitchwraith was a point of confusion in the past, described as a mysterious figure in a black cloak with a white mask and features drawn on in black marker, one eye blacked out, a big toothy grin with blood around the mouth, who's staggering and limps while walking. That made everyone, or at least me, think of Ennard, who shows similar character traits, aside from the whole lives in a dark cloak thing, but to be fair, anyone can grab one, especially with the affordable prices of today's sponsor. I'm just kidding. Although Cloak did release FNAF merch, and they didn't call me, so I'm kind of insulted. I mean, like, I'm reppin', you know. Cloak, hit me up. But the creepy appearance has made him be compared to Ennard, which would just be interesting. But it would mean that, like, Ennard didn't create himself, and that he wasn't actually a combination of the sister location animatronics, and, like, it's not true, but this is because of...
Number 3, safe for children 3 and up. Mangle's appearance is one of the most disturbing things about this animatronic. Mangle likely became a very vengeful animatronic, as it is implied by the lines they have in special delivery, due to the animatronic's origins in regards to how it became so disfigured compared to some of the other animatronics at Freddy's. Mangle didn't always look like they do now. Once upon a time, Mangle was a more complete and less contorted animatronic. Unfortunately, due to it being the animatronic used to entertain toddlers, it became mangled, hence the name Mangle. Every day the toddlers would destroy the animatronic, like in the drawing in Kids Cove, tearing it limb from limb, reducing it to scraps. And every night the staff at Freddy's were forced to reassemble it. One day the staff became tired of doing so and decided they would just advertise Mangle as a take apart and put together toy for toddlers to happily destroy and grotesquely reassemble each day. Have fun, kids. No wonder Mangle wants to kill you. It's likely seeking revenge due to it basically being tortured by small children on a daily basis. I wouldn't like it if children tore me apart and put me back together.
And a 2, potential identity. Now, we don't really know who the Stitchwraith is. We don't know if we've seen the character already, but we can be pretty sure that we haven't. However, we can think about its potential identities for the wraith. So, who could this be? Well, it could be the animatronic that kills Henry. I know, but Baby was the one who killed Henry. Things change. And this could be the one who does it in another universe, or at least the endoskeleton was used for the animatronic that killed Henry. At least in the books, this endoskeleton is described as being unfinished, unlike the scene from FNAF World where everyone thinks that it's Baby. This could be the way the Stitchwraith gets tied back to the books, and this could be tied back to the games later on too. I mean, book number 5 is called Bunny Call, and it features a story about a man with gruesome burns all over his body, and an iron will to live. So, come on, I think we all know who that is. I always come back. Finally, in at number 1, mystery. The scariest thing about this character is just how mysterious he really is. We don't know what he wants. Sure, we know how he was created, but that's the only thing. We don't know about his motives, we don't know about his goals, we don't know why he's collecting body parts, we don't know what he's planning on doing. And the unknown is probably the scariest thing in existence. You're scared of heights. That's because you don't know what you'll feel while falling. You're scared of being alone in the dark? Well, that's because you don't know what's hiding in the shadows. You're scared of that man who seems to be following you because you don't know his motives or if he's really following you. The unknown is the root of all fears. Once you know something, it isn't as scary anymore. That's why they say face your fears to get over them, because once you understand it, you won't be as scared. You'll still potentially be scared, but you won't be as scared. But we know nothing about the Stitchwraith, and that's why so far they're the scariest character of them all.